with that said, Coach Kat, I'm going to call on you again for a brief recap from last week's training roundtable so that we can fold that right into this focus of the courage to stay in action in spite of. Kat, what'd y'all do during the weekly training? Maybe not the roundtable since there were issues there tech-wise, but what took place during the training? Give us a recap.
So briefly, we all learned how we can access privilege of agency through using the order form to the universe tool. And we did it within the container of aligned community. So we received some powerful, inspired, and focused actions, which I've already been hearing from some members have helped you to take actions that you've been putting off and resisting taking for a long time. And all of this is helping you to get closer to your 12-month goals and your 90-day benchmarks. Back to you, Heather.
Beautiful. So the value of what Coach Kat just shared in the name of the courage to stay in action in spite of is the power of the order form to the universe tool. And using the order form to the universe tool to help you and support you with that proactive preparation. So if it isn't auto writing, as I already mentioned, where you asking the question, what do I need to know about this unknown situation that I don't yet know? You can also first or following turn to the order form to the universe to help yourself get clear about an unknown situation or any area where you are resisting being in action right now. Write that down. Jennifer Schultz, write that down. Right? Because at this point, for us as HSPs in business and leadership, we do not fall prey also to that old story of, well, I'm just not feeling motivated. I'm just not feeling excited. Yeah, so turn to the order form to the universe and let's get clear. Now, again, real-time example from the Business Miracles team of the courage to stay in action in spite of, and I also want to call on some members. I want us to call on some members to share their own real-time experiences. Why? Because if we're talking about energy management, if we're talking about tools like the shame transformation tool, if we're talking about tools like assessment, if we're talking about tools like auto writing, if we're talking about tools like order form to the universe, let's add the BTT into that, the belief transformation tool. And the belief transformation tool, and for those who are on site at the acceleration retreat and those who are on site at the quantum leap training, this applies to the turbo BTT that I've shared with you and taught you how to use, and that is the power of evidence. Write that down, the power of evidence. If you are truly a spiritual being, which just heads up, each of you are, then you have at least the understanding that we are all connected. So if there's something that's happening for someone else in a positive manner, it can be happening for you too. So you can borrow from others' evidence, especially borrow evidence from aligned community to serve and support your own transformation, your own access of being willing to have the courage to stay in action in spite of. So let's hear from some members. What have they been doing? What have they been doing to stay in action in spite of? I'm going to call on Rachel Corbett. I'm going to call on Laura Smith. I'm going to call on Shelbi Gurney. I'm going to call on Rachel Zant. I'm going to call on Dima, all to share their personal experience. Rachel Zant, would you start us off, please?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I don't know if you want me to introduce myself. I'm Rachel Zant. I'm calling in from North Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. And I've been a foundation member since about February, I believe.
Thank you so much for putting that introduction in there, Rachel.
No problem.
So masterful. Thank you.
So I had a couple of points. I know I was asked to kind of talk about the power of both and doing things in spite of. And I do feel like this whole program and community has really helped me to do that in like three really concrete ways over the last 6 months. And the first one was I had a major hip replacement surgery in April, and had a lot of fear and anxiety and worry going into that. And also, I'm a solo parent, co-parenting with a very challenging person. So there was a lot to manage. And I really found that the daily OFTU form really helped me a lot, as well as scripting. I was so amazed by the power of scripting to just focus on the outcome that I really wanted instead of focusing on the fears. So I would script every couple times a week exactly the outcome I wanted, how I wanted to feel, how I wanted to recover. And that happened. Like I just, like it was a seamless, really easy, beautiful recovery. And I was really able to lean into accepting help. And I do think some of the trainings I did really helped me to take the time to rest and sit on my bed and let partners and kids fend for themselves and make their own food and not feel like I had to get up and hobble around and manage that. So all of that I think really helped in this recovery. So that's one. Another one is the whole reason I started in this program was to be able to launch a new offering, an inspired offering, and I've been really moving towards that. Even though I have a lot of internal resistance and fear about it, I'm still moving forward. Also just with support and kind reminders and encouragements from the coach team and from the forum and putting asks out there. So I am putting it out there into the world slowly but surely, and I'm feeling really good about that. And then the last thing was a summer vacation, and really struggling with, again, as a solo parent, how to take time off, but also keep my business going. I'm feeling guilty about maybe doing a little bit of work on the vacation and maybe like I'm cheating on my family or my kids for kind of trying to do a bit of work. So just kind of in consultation with the team and doing some of my own OFTU and scripting, I was able to find a really good balance in there. And in the end, I did a tiny bit of work and then found that I was so productive, like the day I got back from my vacation, that I was able to be incredibly productive and focused and got done all of the work I had thought I would need to do on vacation. So all of those things those are three really standouts to me of how this program has really helped me.
Amazing, right? Business miracle round of applause. Incredible, Rachel. Such a beautiful and powerful share and such valuable evidence for each and every one of us. Few things that I want to tease out and highlight from Rachel's share because they are so rich. So first is major surgery. That right there is a reason for untrained HSPs to just shut their lives down in addition to their business. You heard Rachel share, and I love this because we're like creating like a nervous system energy management tool cauldron on this weekly training roundtable. So let's just add in the one that hasn't been mentioned yet, which Rachel brought to us, which is scripting. So using nervous system energy management tools for the life situations that would shut down a non-trained HSP, such as major surgery. You also heard her speak to shifting the pattern of over-responsibility, and I saw Dima nodding as Rachel was sharing, like not having to get up, letting the partners and the kids fend for themselves rather than hobbling. I so appreciate that Rachel gave us the visual of her hobbling around. No, that does not need to happen, right? And then time off. And this beautiful, really consciously approached both and, where a little bit of time on at the beginning and then coming back from time off, fully energized and able to be even that much more productive. Amazing. Be taking notes, because what you're hearing from other members who are sharing right here and now, especially if you hear your ego mind and your super ego voice say to you, oh, I could never do that. Oh, that would never work for me. That's where you listen more deeply and you write it down as evidence for you to call on in the future for yourself to shift and change those limiting beliefs and stories. I'm going to call on Dima next because I saw her resonating with Rachel's aunt. So Dima, what have you been doing to be able to have the courage to stay in action in spite of?
Hello, hi. I have been walking the walk. So my name is Dima. I'm zooming in from the sunny southern coast of Spain today. While on vacation, I might add. I'm in the HSL Plus program. I've been a member since 2019. And I'm bounce around between the self-care and marketing track.
Amazing.
Yeah. So for the last several years, I have been resisting diving into the program as I had when I first started. And I was just kind of showing up a little bit, enough. And what shifted for me the past few months is like I think it slowly just worked its way in there, a brain shift from like, I always thought that showing up would feel like a different person. Like I would feel like a different person when I showed up. Like I'd be this like, whatever happens, yeah, like gritty, person. But the flip for me was actually like that never happened, like surprise. Like I started to show up like, how can I show up this week? Like what feels easy for me to show up to this week? How can I make it easy on myself instead of being like, no, I'm gonna show up no matter what. It just flipped into like an ease, a playfulness, a much smaller step than I had ever considered worth like sharing or doing before. And then the big effects came in when I did that, showed up and then shared and connected with the community. And then that just triggered the flow. Like it was just enough to make these tiny like steps.
Amazing.
To come in and share. Yeah.
Yes. Amazing, Dima. Absolutely. We have to each of us take this in. We have to take in this real-time evidence from Dima. I'm seeing business miracles. I'm seeing heart emojis. So the real big share from Dima is 2 of the HSP business and leadership drums that I beat all the time. First, to just ask, how can I and how easy can it be? Versus, again, the pressure, the self-induced pressure that Dima was previously putting on herself, that she had to be showing up in this big make it happen way. Now, of course, that applies to showing up and utilizing this program, but that then, of course, applies to all the ways that we're called to show up in our businesses, our leadership, and our lives. So rather than falling prey to that self-induced pressure, ask, how can I and how easy can it be? The second drum that I love to beat all the time that Dima so brilliantly spoke to is one step at a time, which is how we do best as HSPs. So rather than, again, this big vision, rather than needing to know all of it all at once, let me just take the one next easiest step. And as Dima did that, as you just heard her share, utilizing the program as a place to practice, well then lo and behold, it had an effect and impact on these other areas of her business and these other areas of her life. Yes, one step at a time. How can I and how easy can it be? Let's take a breath in and let it out. Shelbi, introduction. Since Rachel and Dima so masterfully took it upon themselves to make sure that they were introducing themselves. Shelbi, introduction and what has been working for you to have the courage to stay in action in spite of?
Hi, everybody. So my name is Shelbi Gurney. I'm calling in from Peoria, Arizona. I'm in the foundation program and I'm doing the marketing track. So what's been working for me? Two things stand out as far as what's been working for me. And the first one would be the OFTU, right? Being able to process through things. And then the second thing would be the 4Q weekly goals. I know we haven't mentioned that, but just planning out my week and having a focus for the week has been really helpful for me, despite a lot of things that I've had going on in the last year, I would say. So, I mean, when I first started the program, I think I reached out when I was actually bedbound for like 2 weeks straight, because I just allowed so many things to tank me. And then, you know, I was sick constantly. So getting myself out of that funk, I really wasn't that productive, but staying consistent with what I was doing, you know, really helped me get out of that, taking one step at a time, as you guys were previously talking about. And then, you know, aside from my health issues, you know, when I started feeling better, started having ideas of things that I wanted to do, I started realizing that I had a lot of issues in my marriage that were also tanking me and holding me back from being able to do the things that I wanted to do. And despite me constantly speaking up about my needs and, you know, communicating what I needed, you know, my husband was having a very hard time communicating as well. And, you know, providing what I needed or what we needed as a family to live week to week, right? And consistency and harmony, I would say. So this was, you know, we've probably been having these issues for a really long time, but I think once I started having other ideas, and one of those things was I wanted to start my own sourdough bread business, which I did from my home. And you know, wanting to be healthier, getting into gut health and stuff like that has been, you know, I'm very passionate about that because of the health issues that I was having. So I launched that, and you know, not long after, my husband and I really started having some issues. And so it was very difficult for me to stand in my power, I would say, because it's literally just us. We don't have anybody else. I don't have a family. I don't have a support system. So everything is reliant on me and what I'm capable of doing, right? And my husband as well. So anyways, after months of begging and pleading and asking, nothing happened. And so I decided to separate from him. So that left me by myself 5 days a week, taking care of my toddler, while also baking bread for people and trying to launch this business and keep my friend group going that I had been building and things like that. And, you know, we ended up separating for about 3 weeks, and it really opened him up a lot to what was going on too, right? And despite that, I was able to take care of my son, do the bread, keep going, have consistency. I was doing my 4Q, you know, weekly goals and doing the OFTU, but also scheduling in time for me to grieve, right? Because I didn't know what was going to happen. So when we talk about both and, I was both grieving and also standing in my power. And now that he's home, we found out he's got ADHD. And he was having some issues with that. He needs to take better care of that. And he was having some issues at work where he wasn't standing up for himself. And he's finally started doing that and standing up for us and our family and our time together. So he's back at home, and, you know, our marriage is the best that it's been ever, although we still have issues that we're working through, right? So another both and. Our marriage is the best it's ever been. We still have issues that we're working through, right? But just sticking to consistency and, you know, and I was having this conversation with somebody yesterday about how there's no savior coming. I am my savior, right? And as long as I'm able to get up and stick to what I need to do, that's all I really have control over, right? Going back to privilege of agency as well, is just focusing on what I can do day to day, week to week, and where I'm headed. Has really helped me. And then also I reached out to the community and shared what I was going through and found out other people were were going through the same thing or had been through the same thing, with different outcomes, but that I'm not alone, right? And what I'm going through, and I can do this. So, yeah.
So, yeah. Absolutely, right? Can we just give Shelbi so much love? Such a demonstration of courage, especially in that arena that so many HSPs are so unwilling to talk about, right? Which is the personal relationship and how that can tank you so fast. And if you have the courage to take action, as Shelbi so beautifully shared, then it can also become so supportive, regardless of the outcome. That is courage. Courage, courage, courage to stay in action in spite of. And again, if you're hearing your own ego mind, your super ego voice goes, oh, I would never be able to do that. Oh, that would never work for me. Pay attention, lean in, and write down, including going back and listening to this weekly training roundtable if needed. These are amazing shares. We have 2 more, so this is going to be our time today. So worthwhile. Real-time business miracle member evidence. Stay in action in spite of. Rachel Gorbett, introduction, and what have you been doing to have the courage to stay in action?
Hello. Heather, you are glowing today. I don't know if it's like a skincare routine, but you look amazing.
That's called the acceleration retreat, Miss Rachel.
Was it the acceleration retreat? Well, I need some. I'm Rachel Gorbett. I am HSL++. I'm calling from Ackworth, Georgia, and I'm in the advanced marketing track, but I bounce around. So get what I need, go to the little library, have a good time. So I was on a cruise this summer, and one of the stops on our cruise was Amsterdam in the Netherlands. And Amsterdam I've learned about Anne Frank since I was a very young girl. I know her story. I've seen plays on her. I was told about her all the time. So going to Amsterdam was interesting. When I first arrived, I was a little anxious because I could just imagine what it was like during the Holocaust. And it was I just felt unbalanced. Anyway, my sister and my father wanted to go to the Anne Frank Museum. And I decided with privilege of agency that I wasn't going to go because I felt like I already knew the story. I had the t-shirt and I didn't need to go. And instead I went on a canal tour. And while I was on the canal tour, I was listening to the audio that was provided with it. And I think the people in Amsterdam also have a bull fan. The entire time they talked about all the wonderful things that have happened in Amsterdam, all the wealthy people that have lived there, and all the accomplishments they have made. And they did mention World War II very briefly, but that they moved on. And when you go to Amsterdam today, it is a very vibrant, bustling, happy place. And the horrible things that happened to them, they acknowledge, but they're not dwelling on it.
Oh my gosh. Can we all just write that down? The horrible things that had happened to them, they acknowledged, but don't dwell on it. That is applicable to each and every one of us, especially as HSPs. Yes. Amazing. Thank you, Rachel. Mm-hmm. And to round us out with real-time evidence of the courage to stay in action in spite of, Miss Laura, an introduction and a share.
Hello. First of all, I've got so much from everybody that just shared, so that was fantastic. I'm Laura Smith. I'm calling from Philadelphia. I am in HSL++. Advanced marketing, and I've been in the program since 2021. So for me, I am the infamous "who am I" lady. I attended the QLT Quantum Leap training in May, and it was amazing. But I came back and I literally just felt like I hit a wall. And I remember we did talk about it at Quantum Leap as to who am I to build a business? Who am I to be successful? Who am I to be happy when the entire world around us is crashing? And I don't know what it was, but I literally felt like I hit a wall. I was tanked. I was completely tanked, and I could not move forward. I could not move forward in my business. I could not bring myself to even walk in this office. I was just stuck. And I had been doing the turbo BTT that Heather had talked about from QLT, and then I fell off. And then we were on one of our calls, and Rachel actually was discussing consistency with energy management and how it helped her. And I was like, okay, fine. I got to get back on. So I did. I started doing my turbo BTT again. And the next day, I went and I had 3 amazing networking connections happen in the same day. 3 opportunities just, randomly showed up in my life. And it was just evidence that, wow, if I do get myself back on, I can. And the other thing that, from QLT, from Intuitive Planning Day, happened right not too long after that. It really just helped me, instead of to stay in being tanked, to start inquiring and being curious about why I was tanked. And actually, Heather basically called me out on it, and she said I needed to feel my feelings, and I was like, what are you talking about? But really what happened was, and it's just really interesting that Shelbi just talked about grieving, because really came to realize that I had been suppressing my grief about losing my relationship with my grandsons and my daughter and my siblings and so much other stuff. But I just love how Shelbi just said she is doing the both and, because I was just on vacation and I had listened to the both and training, and one of the things that really is on my mind is the both and, figuring out how I'm going to go through my grieving and build my business at the same time. So I really like how Shelbi talked about that, and I like how she said there is no savior coming, that it's up to me. So yeah.
Yes, amazing. A beautiful exclamation point Laura just gave us for this incredible weekly training roundtable of real-time member evidence of having the courage to stay in action in spite of. And that exclamation point is the power of re-return. That at any time you fall off of consistency, you can always re-return. And when Laura choose to re-return, lo and behold, 3 connections from a networking, easy breezy. And appreciate Laura giving us the underline highlight of Shelbi's share, both and, because it's the HSP shadow tendency of like, oh, I have to grieve. I have to take care of that for the next decade. And then maybe I'll be ready to start my business. And there is always access to the both and. Is this community not so amazing? Let me just say it. This community is so amazing, right? So amazing. Turn to each other, call on each other, tag each other in the forum, write down a name right now, somebody that you see on the screen, Mandy, Kay, Elizabeth, Shelbi, Susie Persini, Debbie Evans, write down a name of someone that you're going to tag in this amazing aligned community of HSPs in business and leadership when you post your weekly training roundtable takeaway. This is how we stay in action in spite of. This is how we have courage. We are proactive. We call on all the tools. You heard all the tools mentioned. Even Shelbi just threw in those 4 Qs. The 4Q intuitive plan. Thank you, Shelbi. Use the tools, call on each other, and that's how we change the world. One HSP in business and leadership at a time. Stay around for Afterglow. The chat will be open. Other than that, many blessings, many business miracles. See you on the forum and all the ways that I will see you until our next weekly training roundtable connection. Mwah.